once again, and welcome to SQL Database Programming. I am your host, SQL Trevor. In today's episode, I plan on doing a very quick video to demonstrate how to locate duplicate records in a table. So let's begin by going to the new query window here, and we're going to use the books DB database, and we will be selecting the authors table. Just want to have a quick look at the contents of that table. Look at the results. And from the results we can see a total of 52 records. Now, at this point, you'd have to go through the entire list of records to determine whether or not you have duplicates. The records are listed in alphabetical order. We can sort that by using the order by. Use the order by clause. Order by first, last name, in ascending order. And this time I want to send the results to text. So let's execute and have a look at the results. And there we have it, in ascending order, alphabetically. So it's much easier to visualize. And we can clearly see by looking at author ID or record ID 22 and 45 that there is an occurrence here. These two records are clearly duplicates. And here is another set. So that's record ID 27 and 43. Now, this is easy to determine because the table is relatively small. It's only 52 records, but in production databases, tables span thousands of records. So that this method would be unfeasible. So let's go back to the editor and let me demonstrate how you would actually determine if there are duplicate records using a keyword known as distinct. So we use select distinct followed by the column names. So you specify the columns there. And you execute, check the results, and there we have. Now it's only giving us 40 rows, 40 records. So SQL Server returns to us what is known as the result set. And the result set states that there are 40 unique records. So here are the records that are valid. the 52, only 40 are unique. The other 12 are duplicates. Now, in order for us to determine which records are actual duplicates, so that we can go in and edit the table, we will go back to the editor and we will use an aggregate function known as count. And we will simply say count all, and we want to rename that. We're going to call it as, in single quote, I call it duplicate records. Okay. Now, we're saying select distinct, first name column, last name, and we want to count all the records. And we want the counted records to be listed under a column called duplicate records. So there will be 3 columns. And we are reading from the writers.authors table. Then we want to group by using a group by. We want to group the result using the group by clause. And we're grouping by the same columns that we used in the select clause. And we want to use another clause called having. Then we introduce the count aggregate function once again. Count all, having count all greater than 1. So first, the select distinct pulls all the records. No, we can't have distinct here. Yes, we're just pulling all the records, and it's looking at the records that occur more than once, and it's essentially counting those records. And it will be listed under a column called duplicate records. Then it will group those records by the having, which is a predicate, count greater than 1. In other words, if it's equal to or less than 1, it's not included. It's got to be greater than 1. Because then that will meet the criteria of duplicate. So duplicate can be 2, can be 3, can be 4. But the predicate states it must be greater than 1. So anything that is unique, where it's only 1 record, will not be listed. And then we order that result set by first name, last name, in ascending order. So we execute, go to results, and there we have it. The third column, called duplicate records, tells you the number of occurrence of the particular row or record. So for Alan Jones, it occurs twice. Everything occurs twice here, with the exception of Paolo Pialorsi, That occurs 3 times. And that concludes a demonstration of how you find duplicate records in a table. We thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video session. Thank you.